You know, I went to visit in Colombia. Actually, Colombia, I would say I have more expertise on than any country, because I've been there, I can't even tell you how many times, many, many times. Since 1999, I've been going there a lot with the support of the steelworkers. And why? Because Colombia was then, in the 90s, and has been and is now the most dangerous country in the world to be a trade unionist. More unionists have been and are killed in Colombia than any country on earth. And so it's been a big issue for trade unionists, and it's been a big issue for me, so I've gone there many times. Now in 2017, I went to an area called La Guajira, which is a peninsula in the northeast side of Colombia. In fact, it goes, La Guajira actually straddles both Colombia and Venezuela. And within La Guajira lives the largest indigenous community, Colombian indigenous community, but they also, again, go into Venezuela, the Wayuu people. Now, I went and visited their, where they live. First of all, when you go to La Guajira, you either fly into or you drive and you stay in Rio Hacha, which is a beautiful little tourist area on the Caribbean. And it's very nice, very pleasant, great place to vacation. Though you will be, a lot of little Wayuu children will come up to you and try to sell you little trinkets. They come a long way to sell you little trinkets to try to help their people survive. In any case, but then you drive into where the Wayuu people live, and what you're struck by is that they live in a desert-like condition. There's no water, and there's no food. These people are dying, and that's not a controversial statement. Everyone concedes that this tribe is dying. And they took us, we learned why, they took us to their river that feeds their people and has for many centuries. And we stood in the river. And you know how we could? There's no water in it. None. It's a barren pit. And the reason it's a barren pit is because there's a mining company that has dammed it all up and uses the water for its operations. And it's literally killing these people. Children are dying. It's a disaster. You saw kids with a real brittle kind of blonde hair. They'd normally have black hair. It's because of malnutrition. And it was very interesting. John Otis, who used to write for the Global Post, who now does stuff for NPR. First of all, you never hear about the Wayuu people, hardly ever. But if you do, you'll get a story like John Otis gave on NPR. And the story he gave is, there's these people, Wayuu people in Colombia, and they're dying. And he said there's two reasons why they're dying. One, because their culture's backwards. And I forget how he explained that related to anything, but whatever, he did say that. And two, he said, because at that point they were not getting the subsidized food that was being stolen out of Venezuela. That had been cut off. So basically they were blaming Venezuela and their backward culture for these Wayuu people in Colombia dying. He doesn't mention the river and the mining company at all. But again, even putting aside the causes of their plight, the main point is this is a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. And in Colombia, there's about 100 indigenous tribes. And according to the U.S. State Department, the last that I read, at least 35 of those tribes are on the verge of extinction. And according to the U.S. State Department, they're on the verge of extinction for the same reason the Wayuu people are, because of mining companies that have pushed them off their land, that have hired paramilitaries to kill them. And again, this is not worthy of news or our concern. These are unworthy victims, and that gets us to the unworthy victims. Unworthy victims are those who are killed and mistreated by the United States and Canada, by the West and their allies. And so those are people that we're not going to hear much about, if at all. And when we do, it's going to be rare that the link is going to be drawn between their suffering and the activities of our governments, right? And so again, we hear every day relentlessly, Venezuela, Venezuela, never Colombia. Let's forget about Colombia. And meanwhile, of course, the worst humanitarian crisis of all in the world right now is Yemen. It's estimated that upwards of 21 million people may starve in Yemen due to this war. 21 million! That's 3.5 Holocausts. And they are dying from a war that the US and Canada are supporting with weapons, logistical support. And yet again, no one's hitting the panic button there. No one's calling for humanitarian shipments to Yemen. No one's calling for us to sanction Saudi Arabia, much less invade it, to stop its crimes in Yemen that will exceed those of the Third Reich. No one's hitting the panic button. Because we're doing it. In fact, to solve the Yemen crisis would be much easier than solving most of the crises we're told to care about, because all it would demand is for us to stop doing something. Save our money and stop sending arms shipments to Saudi Arabia. Right? Yeah. Stop intervening. Instead, we're urged to care about places where we're told we must intervene. Everything has been turned on its head.